By the time you turn 18, you've already lived through roughly half of how your entire life is going to feel. Not half your years, half the actual perceived length of your life, and it only gets faster from here. That sounds impossible. So let's actually prove it step by step. In 1897, a French psychologist named Pierre Janet proposed something strange. He said a single year to a 10-year-old and that same single year to a 50-year-old are not the same length, not emotionally, not psychologically, mathematically. Janet's idea was simple. A year to a 10-year-old is 1/10 of their entire life. A year to a 50-year-old is 1/50th. The actual clock time is identical. The proportional weight is completely different. This is called the proportional theory of time perception, and once you truly see it, you can't unsee it. Your 5th year of life was 20% of your entire existence up to that point. Your 50th year is 2%. Of course, one feels longer. It objectively was, relative to everything you had to compare it against. But proportion alone doesn't explain everything, because if it did, time should slow down smoothly and predictably, year by year, like a dial turning. It doesn't, it speeds up in bursts. And the real explanation for those bursts has almost nothing to do with math. It has to do with memory. Here's an experiment you've probably already run on yourself, without ever realizing it. Think about a vacation. The week leading up to it feels like it drags. Then the vacation itself, especially the first 2 days in a new place, feels rich and long and slow. Then you get home, fall back into routine, and suddenly a month has evaporated. Neuroscientists have a name for what's happening here. It's called the density of novel memory encoding. Your brain doesn't record time directly. There's no internal stopwatch ticking away in a specific region of your skull. Instead, your sense of how much time has passed is reconstructed after the fact, based on how many distinct new memories got laid down during that period. New environments, new faces. New smells, unfamiliar streets. Your brain treats novelty as a signal to pay closer attention, and closer attention means denser memory formation. More memories packed into a stretch of time makes that stretch feel longer in retrospect. Fewer memories makes it feel like it barely happened at all. This is why childhood feels endless while it's happening and looks compressed only in hindsight, and why adulthood does the opposite, feeling fast while it's happening and looking strangely empty when you try to recall it. When you were 7, literally everything was novel. Your first day of school. Learning to ride a bike, a new teacher, a new classroom, a new best friend, a new argument, a new heartbreak, all inside a single September. Your brain was recording constantly, laying down dense, detailed memory almost every single day. Now think about your last several Tuesdays. Same commute. Same desk, same 3 coffee shops, same faces in the same meetings. Your brain, quite reasonably, stops bothering to encode most of it in detail because none of it is new information worth storing. And when you later try to recall that stretch of time, there's almost nothing there to measure it against, so it collapses. A month gets compressed down to the size of a single, forgettable afternoon. This isn't a flaw, it's efficient. Your brain isn't built to store every waking moment in equal detail. It's built to prioritize what's actually useful, and familiar routine, almost by definition, contains very little that's useful to remember in detail. There's a physical layer to this too, and it comes from a surprising place. In 2019, a mechanical engineer named Adrian Bajan, not a psychologist, published a paper arguing that part of this effect might be rooted in simple biology. As you age, the rate at which your brain processes visual information slows down. Neural pathways lengthen and thicken with myelin over decades of use, and signals simply take longer to travel between neurons than they did when you were young. Bajan's argument was that a slower processing rate means fewer discrete, mental images get captured per unit of clock time. A child's brain processing faster captures more distinct frames per second in a sense. An older brain processing more slowly captures fewer frames, same length of film. Fewer frames per second, watching the same stretch of real time, plays back feeling faster. It's the exact same principle behind why a slow-motion camera makes real-time action look stretched out, just running in reverse, inside your skull, across decades instead of seconds. So you've got 3 forces stacking on top of each other. Proportional shrinkage, where each year is mathematically a smaller slice of your total life. Declining novelty, where routine adulthood generates less memory density than a childhood full of firsts. And a slowing internal processing rate, capturing fewer distinct moments as you age. None of these alone fully explains the effect. Together, they compound. There's one more piece of evidence for the memory density theory, and it comes from a completely different area of research. Ask people of any age from their 60s, 70s, even 90s to recall their most vivid personal memories, and something consistent happens almost every time. A disproportionate number of those memories cluster between the ages of roughly 15 and 25. Psychologists call this the reminiscence bump, and it shows up across cultures, across generations, across completely different life circumstances. That period isn't randomly special. It's the stretch of life packed with the highest concentration of genuine firsts: first job, first serious relationship, first time living away from family, first real failure, first real independence, an entire identity being assembled in real time. The reminiscence bump isn't proof that your late teens and early 20s were objectively the best years of your life. It's proof that they were the most densely recorded ones, exactly what the theory would predict, showing up decades later as the memories that survived. And here's the strange side effect of that. Modern life is very good at producing something that feels like novelty without actually being novelty in the way your brain needs it. Scrolling for 2 hours delivers hundreds of new images, sounds, and headlines, one after another, and yet very little of it gets encoded as a meaningful, distinct memory. Your brain seems to require novelty tied to genuine experience, a new place, a new person, a new physical situation, not simply a new stream of content passing in front of your eyes. Which may be part of why so many people report that entire evenings spent on their phone feel like they evaporate, contributing nothing to memory at all, while a single unfamiliar walk through a new neighborhood can outlast an entire week of scrolling in what you actually remember. This is also the part that should change how you live, not just how you think about it. If time feels long when memory is dense, and memory gets dense from novelty, then the speed of your life isn't fixed, it's responsive. Researchers who study this have found something almost suspiciously simple: deliberately introducing novelty back into adult life, a new route to work, an unfamiliar hobby, travel to somewhere you've never been, meeting people outside your usual circle, appears to measurably slow the felt passage of time. Not because the clock changes, because your brain starts logging detail again. This is why a week of travel to somewhere new can feel longer, richer, more expansive than 3 months of ordinary life back home. It's not nostalgia talking. It's memory density, doing exactly what it did when you were 7, just triggered on purpose this time instead of by default. There's a strange comfort buried in all of this. The reason your childhood summers felt infinite wasn't magic, and it isn't gone forever. It was simply your brain operating in a mode it still knows how to run, one flooded with unfamiliar input, working overtime to make sense of a world it hadn't mapped yet. That mode didn't get switched off when you grew up. It just went dormant because routine gave it nothing left to do. So the next time a year disappears faster than you can account for, understand what actually happened. It's not that time sped up. It's that your life for that particular year didn't leave enough behind to prove it happened at all. The clock on the wall never changed speed. The one inside you did, quietly, based entirely on how much you gave it worth remembering, one unremarkable Tuesday at a time.